Hey everybody, this is Generational Wealth. This is a channel where we'll talk about credit, business credit, and any and everything that's going to be a conglomerate of information that's going to propel us forward to create wealth now and for generations to come. I wanted to start this off by speaking about something that is a pillar, in my opinion, to the beginning part of wealth, and that's mindset. So when I first started hearing about mindset, which was years ago, in my head, I knew what it meant. But then when I started to hear, mindset broken down more from a definition standpoint, then the light bulb started to go off. And that's when a lot of changes started to happen for me personally. So when you're starting to create wealth, it truly is a mindset. And to me, we can break that down in many different ways. We can break that down as philosophy. We can break that down as what you think about, you attract all day long. Many people know about mindset as LOA, law of attraction, or one of my favorites that I learned in early 2004 from the book Think and Grow Rich, which is auto-suggestion, which is we are constantly telling ourselves that we want to attract this one thing, and we continue to repeat it to ourselves over and over and over till this comes into fruition. A great example that I wanted to share about auto-suggestion, when I first started reading Think and Grow Rich, which this is one of the first chapters in the book, this was a chapter that really blew my mind. So I figured, things aren't going well in my life right now. Let me put this into practice. So what I did was I wrote a check for myself at the time for $1,500. And I would always look at the check when I woke up first thing in the morning. I would look at the check. I kept the check in my bag. So when I was walking, I would look at the check again. And when I was at work, I would look at the check at work. So I kept repeating to myself that I am going to make X amount of dollars, which was $1,500. I'm going to make $1,500 this one check. I'm going to make $1,500 this one check. Now, that might not seem like a lot, but back in early 2000s, that was a lot for me at the time because I wasn't making that much. So interesting story, and this again all falls around to mindset. It was a casual day at work. I was working the closing shift. Actually, I was working for Saks Fifth Avenue at the time. So I just walked into work. I greeted all of my associates, and we did sales. So we were fair amongst each other as far as who would get the next sale for the person that walked into the sunglass department, which was the department I worked in at that time. So guy walks in, pretty looks like a somewhat, well-to-do guy, but we don't, in sales, you don't judge anyone. And, that's not something that I abide by anyway. So I'm about to walk up to the gentleman, and one of my really good friends at the time that I worked with, she was about to walk up to him as well, but then she looked at me and said, no, go ahead. So I walked up to the gentleman. I just remember me feeling really, really good this day. So I introduced myself, told him, hi, how you doing? And he said, good. I was like, all right. So I guess, and at the time, it looked like what appeared to be his wife, which it was. And I also found out at the time it was his stepdaughter. So I greeted him and I said, so I guess you're looking for glasses today. And he was like, yeah, do you want to help me? And I was like, sure, of course. So I'm walking with him, and I just remember him and I having like a really good conversation, really warm guy. So he picked out his first pair of glasses, and he called his wife over, and he was like, honey, what do you think? And she said, oh, those are nice. And he said, okay, do you think your mom would want any glasses? And she's like, yeah, sure, why not? So in my head, I go, because in the sunglass department, for somebody to buy one pair of glasses was great. 2 at a time was really good. Okay, so, hold that thought with 2 at a time. So his wife is looking around with him in the sunglass department, and she picks out a pair of glasses for her mom. And then he said, okay, so you just want to get her one pair? And in my head, I was like, okay. So he's continuing to, look around in the department. And then he calls his stepdaughter over. He told her, hey, why don't you pick out a pair of glasses as well? So then she proceeds to pick out a pair of glasses. So there's multiple parts to this story. Just to fast forward it, we get to the register and he has 15 pairs of sunglasses. Obviously, everyone in my department, at this point now, they're looking at me like, is he really about to ring those sunglasses up? But more importantly, is this sale going to go through? And not only is everyone in my department looking at me, but this is on the first floor where customers are constantly coming in. There's different exits. This is the middle of Manhattan. So Saks Fifth Avenue is incredibly busy at this time. So long story short, with this part of the story, the gentleman rings up over $8,000 worth of sunglasses. And as I'm finishing up the transaction with him, he said, hey, do you think you can take me anywhere else around the store? And I said, absolutely. And then the people in the sunglasses department that are my associates, they look at me and go, so we end up going to the mink coat section, and just to sum up the story, the ticket price when I came down to my main department was about $73,000. But here's the mind-blowing part, and this is all about mindset. So when I got my commission check for this transaction, the commission check was over $3,000. But because of taxes, and at the time I owed student loans, they took a portion as well. The check totaled out to be $1,400 and something. And when I looked at the check, I must admit, I was blown away. I was like, wait a minute. I'm looking at the check and I'm like, this is crazy. Like, I've been auto-suggesting to myself that I'm going to make this amount of money. So what I'm trying to share is, when you're beginning to create wealth for yourself, it literally has to be a mindset. You have to tell yourself, whether it involves your credit, I'm going to get my credit right. By X date, I'm going to have X amount credit score. By X date, I'm going to have X amount in my bank account. By 2023, May, I'm going to purchase my first house. It literally starts in the mind. I heard a long time ago, everything in life happens twice. First in the mind, and then in reality. I can share countless stories of how I've practiced auto-suggestion myself, even with the home I own till this day. But the main thing that I want to share is wealth, of course, as we all know and should know, is absolutely possible, but it starts from the words that come out your mouth from the first day in the morning. It starts from writing a check to yourself saying, I'm going to get this amount of money. I'm going to get this amount of money. I'm going to get this amount of money. When I first started doing it to myself, I felt that the repetitiveness of it was like, oh man, I've never done this before, but I literally told myself it won't hurt until I try it. So I definitely challenge everyone who watches this to try it and see how far I get to. Until next time, peace.